Welcome back. Everything has changed, and that is exactly the point. Your great grandmother could literally feed her family through a hard winter, a bad harvest, a broken supply chain without a single grocery run. And you probably can't yet. I'm Molly Bravo. This is the Sovereign Kitchen Society, where we go deep on the lost kitchen skills that have kept families self-sufficient for generations. And we're bringing them back into the kitchen that we have right now. Every single episode, one skill, real history, real technique, real action, because the people who know how to feed themselves don't panic. So let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by none other than your favorite Wilder Space, my family-run farm-to-table catering company nestled right here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, where every single meal that we serve is rooted in real food, real sourcing, and of course, relationships with the people who grow our food. Beyond the catering, we are on a mission. I'm going to be teaching people how to slow down, get back to the basics, and of course, reclaim the kitchen skills that our grandparents' generation has carried like second nature. The Pantry of Plenty is our online and in-person cooking community, and it's where that mission lives. We're teaching fermentation, canning, sourdough, bone broth from scratch, and of course, the old world skills that make a modern kitchen genuinely self-sufficient. So if you have felt that pull towards something more real, this is where I want you to go. wilderspace.com/education. The link is going to be in the show notes. I highly implore you to check it out if you're interested in learning these old world skills. This is what today looks like. I'm going to be telling you why I took a month off and completely rebuilt this show. And then I'm going to talk to you about what's actually happening in the world right now, because I really want you to be prepared for what is on the horizon. You know, the most important thing that we can do is to make sure that we can feed our families. So I'm definitely going to be giving you one thing that you can do today that's going to be small and completely free, that's going to change the way that you are headed. And it's going to change it immediately. And by the end, I'm going to offer you 3 action steps that you can start implementing today. So please be sure to stay until the end, because that is where all the good stuff is. You know, I jumped into season 1. Obviously, I had no clue what I was doing. I was making it up as I went. And I knew that I wanted to talk about the things that I was passionate about. I was kind of all over the place. I was trying to discover my voice through food. And of course, I wanted to use this platform as an opportunity to educate you on knowing and caring about where your food comes from. I wanted to show you about the importance of doing things the old-fashioned way and finding a way to get back to the basics of cooking from scratch and sourcing local. So I stopped and I took a month. I went back to the beginning. And for those of you who don't follow along yet, I have been writing in depth about my grandmother, Alberta, from Southgate, Kentucky. And she lived in this house that had a very high functioning kitchen. It was small and it was mighty and it was highly efficient in terms of food production. She had shelves that were lined with jars that she had put up herself. She had tomatoes and green beans and applesauce and pickles that were lining the shelves that were able to be opened whenever someone was hungry. She had sourdough that was sitting on the counter. She had all kinds of delicious things that were produced from a cellar in her basement. Obviously, food blogs didn't exist back then. It was the 1930s. And I've actually never even met my grandmother. And I'm only now learning about her through this old wooden recipe box that she gave my mom, who then passed it on to me. And I'm telling you this because she's obviously since passed on, and a lot of what she knew about life and cooking and running a kitchen went with her because nobody wrote it down and nobody filmed it and nobody sat at that kitchen table with a recorder and said, wait, tell me exactly how you made that. So I've spent the last 2 years writing about this muse of mine, writing about my grandmother, Alberta, and I've been writing about her on Substack. I've been working through the grief of that lost knowledge. I've been piecemealing all of this information and these skills and these stories of her kitchen together from my mom and my aunt. And I've been putting the pieces together from old cookbooks and recipe cards, and of course, interviewing elders. And through trial and error on my own 5 acres here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, I'm now stepping into her shoes, and I'm hoping that I'm able to pick up where she left off. I am so moved by the stories of Alberta's life that I'm sharing them publicly because she was fascinating and she was simple and she was absolutely nothing fancy. But her story was one of resiliency and determination. And she had these qualities that I believe all families had back then. And they were qualities that we have been leaving behind since convenience has stepped into the picture. The response has been absolutely astounding. And it was something that I was not prepared for. You know, I think people are really starving for this kind of a conversation. And this show is now the audio version of that conversation. One lost skill per episode. We're talking about deep, practical, personal stuff. And I am so honored to share it with you and to share this journey of discovery with you every week. So with that being said, I want to dip into what has been happening into the world around us right now in live time so that we can prepare ourselves for whatever is being thrown our way. There's this low grade level of unease that I think we've all been feeling that's settled into a lot of households right now. I'm sure you can feel it at the grocery store when the prices of the things that you used to get are jumping. And I'm sure that you feel it when you do the math at the checkout and you think, wait, holy cow, this is expensive. 70% of the freight in this country moves by truck, which means that almost everything in your grocery store is passed through a diesel engine to get to where you are. When oil is scarce, which it is right now, the cost is obviously not going to stay at the pump. It's going to travel through every link of the supply chain. This is something that I talked a lot about in season 1, and I'm going to continue to talk about it now with an increase in the prices of your food. Your grocery store carries only about 3 days worth of inventory at any given time. 3 days. That is nothing. The whole system that we live upon is built on the assumption that deliveries never stop. And the moment that something interrupts that, whether it's a port that slows down, a fuel spike, a weather event, a labor action problem, all of those shelves thin out extremely quickly. We saw it happen in 2020. We're seeing it happen again now. And it is not something that you are imagining. The average American family has between 3 and 5 days of usable food in their home if you are lucky. We're talking about food that you can actually cook and eat right now without having to go to the grocery store. Your great-grandmother would have found that number terrifying because our great-grandparents didn't go to the store every day. In fact, they went maybe once a week if they were lucky. And I believe that this is why all of them used to keep a pantry. And it's something that we're going to be talking a lot about in season 2. Right now, we have traded all of that for convenience. And convenience worked for a very long time. I mean, it was a symbol of status and wealth and comfortability. And eventually, it started to show its cracks. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that the sky is falling. I'm simply telling you that the ground is shifting and we need to pay attention as a community. The skills that let our grandparents feed their families through real uncertainty are not old-fashioned. They are the most relevant things that we can be utilizing today to make sure that our families can eat. The people that know how to take care of themselves today don't panic when the shelves thin out. They go home and they open up their pantries. And that is exactly what we're going to be building on this show. That is what every episode from here on out is going to be pointed at, because I want you to be prepared. So let me give you something right now. Before you build anything, you need to know where you're starting from. Most people genuinely think that they have way more than they do, or they feel a little bit behind and they don't really want to look at what's going on. I want you to open your cabinets. I want you to look at what you actually have. I'm not talking about the condiments or like those half-empty bottles that you have in the refrigerator. I'm talking about real food, the food that you could be making a full-on meal from. And then I want you to open up your freezer and I want you to do the same thing. And I want you to ask yourself one question. If you could not get to the grocery store for 2 weeks, what would you feed your family? How many days do you think that you've got worth of real food? Because most people are going to come back with about 3 days. And a lot of people probably come back with less. It is so good to have a starting point. Season 2 is going to look like this. Every single episode is going to go deep on a skill. It's going to be going deep on things that used to be totally ordinary, the kind of things that my grandmother Alberta did on a random Tuesday without blinking an eye that most of us have no clue how to do. We're going to be going into things like lactofermentation, making your own bone broth, sourdough. These are things that people have forgotten about and that we need to start learning. Pressure canning, water bath canning. They're going to fill up your pantry. We're going to be talking about rendering fat, cooking with whole animals, seed saving, building a kitchen garden, even when all you have is a windowsill or a grow. Every episode is going to be about the stories, the history, the way that we learn to use these things and start implementing them into our kitchen today, are now in their 70s and their 80s and their 90s. And when they go, everything that they carried with them is going to be gone. So it's up to us. It's up to you and I to start gleaning this wisdom from our elders so that we can pass it on to the next generation. This show is all about me starting to pay attention in my own life and in my own kitchen and learning how to feed my own family. And I am simply sharing what I'm learning with you, so that you can start implementing it into your family and passing it on to your children. I really want this to be a living archive of what we have almost let go. So that's the mission. That is what we're doing in season 2. And I'm so happy that you're here. These are the 3 things that you're going to be able to start doing this week. Here's number 1. I want you to do the pantry audit that we talked about. I want you to open up your cabinet and write down how many days worth of food you have in your cabinets, your freezer, and your refrigerator. Number 2, I want you to go to Wilder Space's Substack. I want you to read about Alberta so that you can see why I am so passionate about sharing this information with all of you. I want you to go and talk to your elders, talk to your parents, your grandparents, your relatives, and get as much information as you can on how they used to do things. Write it down if you have to, record it on your phone, whatever you have to do so that you can start learning these skills from people other than just me. And the last thing, number 3, is I want you to pick one skill that you're really interested in learning. Maybe you want to learn sourdough or fermentation or bone broth or canning, whichever one is calling to you. Dive in, go deep, learn as much as you can about that. Let's start bridging the gap. My grandmother, Alberta, used to say, and I used to hear my mom say this all of the time, waste not, want not. It is the mission of our family's food philosophy. It's what I want to share with you. Nothing should be wasted. Everything should be used. Your family will never have to be hungry. If you're excited to learn about these old world skills, if you want to glean the wisdom from your elders, come hang out with me on Instagram. Follow along on Substack. Food is and always will be our medium for connection. If you want to go deeper on today's topic, recipes, research the full story, head over to our Substack at wilderspace.substack.com. Everything is waiting for you there. I'm Molly Bravo. This is the Sovereign Kitchen Society, and I will see you next week.